Response to those who say paradise and hell will be annihilated, by Imam Ibn Taymiyyah. Translation by Muhammad Al-Amrani. In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. Praise be to God, the Lord of all the worlds, and may the blessings and peace of God be upon Muhammad, his family, his companions, and all who follow them in righteousness. A discourse on responding to those who claim the annihilation of paradise and hell. This treatise addresses the contention surrounding the notion of the annihilation of paradise and hell, and the opinions of those like the Farabiya who have spoken on this matter. It also touches upon the divergence of views concerning the abode of recompense, where punishment is meted out, and the abode of reward, where divine grace and bounty are bestowed. In this regard, humanity has articulated three distinct positions. Some assert the annihilation of both abodes, others affirm their eternal endurance, and yet a third group claims the annihilation of the abode of recompense, while maintaining the perpetuity of the abode of divine favour, grace, and honour. The refutation by Shaykh al-Islam of the doctrine of the Jamia Shaykh al-Islam, may God have mercy upon him, has eloquently addressed the doctrines of the Jamiyah, the Hudayliyah, and the Farabiyah, decisively favouring the arguments of the people of the Sunnah, while dismantling the specious claims of the innovators. He has also alluded to certain proofs demonstrating the predominance of divine satisfaction over divine wrath. In his words, may God have mercy upon him, he states, people have disputed over this matter, arriving at three distinct opinions. One group asserts the perpetuity of both abodes, another claims their annihilation, and a third maintains the endurance of paradise alone, excluding hell. As for the notion of their annihilation, we have not encountered anyone who attributes such a view to any of the righteous predecessors, neither the companions nor the followers who adhered to their path with excellence. Rather, this opinion has been attributed solely to Jam ibn Safwan and his followers, the Jamiyah. This is a matter that the luminaries of Islam have vehemently rejected, and indeed it is among the reasons for which they have declared such proponents to be outside the fold of faith. This rejection is echoed in the works of Abdullah ibn Ahmad in his book Al-Sunnah, Al-Athram in his book of the same title, and Abu Abdullah Muhammad ibn Ismail al-Bukhari in his work Khalq Af'al al-Ibad, among others. They cite Kharija ibn Musab, who declared, "The Jamiyah have disbelieved in verses from the Book of God, the Exalted and Majestic, in numerous instances, particularly in 4 verses from his book. God, the Exalted, says, 'Its fruit is perpetual,' Quran 13:35, yet they claim it shall not endure. God, the Exalted, also declares, 'Indeed this is our provision, for it there is no depletion,' Quran 38:54, yet they assert it shall be exhausted, and he says, 'Neither cut off nor withheld,' Quran 56:33. So whoever claims it shall be severed has indeed fallen into disbelief, and he proclaims, 'A gift without interruption,' Quran 11:108, meaning it shall not be cut off. Thus, whoever claims it shall cease has committed disbelief." This was the stance of Jam, rooted in his fundamental belief in the impossibility of the existence of infinite events, a matter expounded upon elsewhere. This principle forms the cornerstone of the arguments of the speculative theologians, who sought to prove the temporality of bodies and events inseparable from temporality, using it as their primary evidence for the createdness of the universe. Jam posited that what precludes the existence of the infinite in the future must also preclude it in the past. Consequently, he deemed a perpetual act impossible for the Lord in the future, just as it was impossible in the past. Abu al-Hudayl al-Alaf, a leading figure among the Mu'tazila, concurred with this foundational principle, but argued that it necessitates only the cessation of movements. He claimed that the movements of the inhabitants of paradise and hell shall cease, leaving them in a state of perpetual stillness, unable to move. A faction of those who agreed with them on the impossibility of infinite events, such as Abu al-Hasan ibn al-Zaguni, argued that this view aligns with rational deduction. However, since the divine revelation affirms the perpetuity of paradise and hell, they adhered to it. Yet they failed to recognize that what is deemed impossible by reason cannot be affirmed by revelation, for revelation does not attest to the existence of that which reason deems impossible. Most of those who aligned with Jam and Abu al-Hudayl on this principle distinguished between the past and the future from a rational perspective, arguing that the past has already entered into existence, unlike the future. The impossibility lies only in the existence of an infinite sequence entering into being. This discourse on these opinions has been elaborated elsewhere, where the errors of their proponents have been laid bare. It has been clarified that when it is said the past is infinite, what is meant is that it has no beginning, it does not end at the point of origin. Yet, if a past event is considered concluded, it has indeed reached its end. In the realm of boundless thought, to assume the infinite as utterly endless and yet to deem it concluded and past is to wed two opposites in an impossible union. Thus, their arguments for such a notion weave together contradictions, as when they assert, it must follow that today and all other events hinge upon the completion of that which has an end, while the completion of the infinite is an absurdity. To them it is replied, indeed, that which knows no end, neither in its inception nor its conclusion, cannot be deemed complete, for its termination is impossible. Yet, if you posit it as having passed and reached a boundary, your subsequent claim that its completion is impossible becomes a paradox, for you have assumed it concluded and bounded on one side, the side of ending, while leaving the side of beginning unbound. Likewise, in their argument of application, they say, if we consider the events up to the time of the flood and those up to the time of the migration, and then compare the two, they must either be equal or differ. Equality is impossible, and disparity necessitates a difference in the infinite which they deem absurd. To them it is said, these events are one and the same, yet augmented by the span between the two eras, the time of the flood and the time of the migration. Whether you regard them as identical or distinct, one set exceeds the other, and this disparity pertains to what has ended, namely the past. Thus, it is a difference in what is finite on one side, the bounded edge. If the finitude of that which has no beginning is conceivable in the future, then the disparity arises from its boundedness, not from its infinitude, that is, from lacking a beginning. But if the finitude of that which has no beginning is impossible, then your assertion that events have concluded at the time of the flood or the migration is baseless. For if it is said that the Lord has ever been speaking by his will and power, or ever acting as he wills, implying his eternal agency, then this kind of action is ancient, and that which must be ancient cannot cease to be, rendering the cessation of the Lord's acts impossible, contrary to the claim of Jam, who insists that his acts must end and be severed. Jam holds that their eternal continuity is as impossible as their eternal precedence, asserting that God must have been inactive in the past and will be so in the future when paradise and hell cease to exist. In essence, his view is that God was once powerless, then became powerful, and will revert to powerlessness, claiming that which has no beginning must have an end. Yet, if it is posited that the Lord has ever been capable of action and speech by his will, ever speaking when he chooses and acting as he desires, then it becomes necessary to affirm the existence of that which has neither beginning nor end to its inception. If the termination of such a kind is imagined, it is a falsehood. Thus, when it is said that events have ended at the flood or the migration, and if it is further claimed that the Lord might cease to act in what remains, this is a supposition contrary to reality, indeed an impossibility. And if it is said that a mental distinction is made between the past and the future, such a mental construct alters not the truths, for the eternal act remains in itself. Yet, if this is imagined in the mind, it implies that past events have reached a limit, and if they have reached a limit, they admit of increase or decrease, for that which concludes among events is subject to augmentation or diminution. These matters are elaborated elsewhere, but here we point to the root of Jam's doctrine, which compelled him to assert the annihilation of paradise and hell, a view so repugnant that the leaders of Islam and their majority declared him an unbeliever. Even those who agreed with his premise diverged in its implications. thus falling into contradiction. Those who distinguish between the past and the future, claiming the past has entered existence unlike the future, offer a frail distinction for several reasons. First, the past is rendered finite by them, so the disparity occurs only in what is bounded, not in the infinite, as previously explained. What enters existence, then, is only that which is finite on this side. This assumes finitude is possible, but what if it is impossible? Second, their argument encompasses both kinds, for it can be asked, the events from the migration and from the flood to the infinite, do they differ or are they equal? If equal, it is impossible, for one exceeds the other. If they differ, it is impossible, for disparity in the infinite is absurd. If it is countered that this disparity or equality pertains to what has not yet come to be, it is replied, indeed, but it is a supposition of disparity or equality in what is assumed to exist, not in its state of non-existence. Similarly, their positing of equality or disparity in the past occurs after its non-existence, not during its existence, yet they imagine those past events now non-existent, as if they exist. Thus, in both cases, it is a matter of imagining disparity or equality in what is non-existent. If it holds in one case, it holds in the other. If it is impossible in one, it is impossible in the other. Third, it is said, the designation of something as past or future is relative to the speaker. What precedes his speech is past, and what follows is future. Relative to each other, the past is past to what is future, and the future is future to what has passed. Every past was once future, and every future will become past. Thus there is no inherent distinction in the nature of the two categories to claim one as possible and the other impossible. Rather, this past was once future, and this future will become past, for all events bear the attributes of passing and futurity. Hence, there is no intrinsic necessity in the categories to warrant a distinction between them. The elaboration of this discourse belongs to another place. The intent here is this. The assertion of the annihilation of paradise and hell is a doctrine unknown among the righteous predecessors. Neither the companions nor those who followed them in excellence, nor any of the imams of the Muslims. Those who espoused it did not derive it from the teachings of the Messenger of God, may peace and blessings be upon him, nor from his elucidations and clarifications, nor from any rational analogy endorsed by him. Rather, they formulated it through their own reasoning, which is erroneous in essence, though it may have seemed true to many among the speculative theologians, leading them to build upon it the necessity of the temporality of that which is never devoid of events, and even the necessity of the temporality of that by which events subsist. From this they claimed that the Quran and all other speech of God is created, and that it is impossible for God to have ever been speaking as he wills. Upon this, they also denied the divine attributes, deeming them accidents that can only subsist in a body. Among them, some claimed that God began to speak by his will after not doing so, with some asserting that speech does not subsist in him, thus rendering it created and separate from him, while others claimed it subsists in his essence, making the genus of his speech temporal. Those who aligned with the predecessors in affirming that he has ever been speaking agreed with Jam on his premise, asserting that his speech is eternal in essence, but not by his will and power. Rather, it is inherent to his essence like life. Among these, some claimed it is a single meaning, encompassing every command and prohibition, the essence of the Torah, the Gospel, the Psalms, and all speech with which he addresses his believing servants, angels, and others. Others claimed it is eternal letters or letters and sounds ever inherent to his essence, unrelated to his will and power. These four factions include many among the speculative thinkers counted as great scholars and defenders of Islam or of Islam and the Sunnah. Yet the root of their error is their agreement with Jam in denying the eternal continuity of events, claiming it impossible for God to have ever been speaking as he wills or acting as he desires. They concurred that the speech and acts of the Lord cannot be eternally continuous by his power and will, and that it is impossible for the words of God to be without end, despite the Almighty's declaration. Say, if all the sea were ink for my sustainer''s words, The sea would indeed be exhausted before my sustainers' words are exhausted, even if we were to add to it sea upon sea. Quran 18:109. And he said, and if all the trees on earth were pens, and the sea were ink, with 7 more seas yet added to it, the words of God would not be exhausted, for verily God is almighty, wise. Quran 31:27. Ibn Abi Hatim, in his exegesis, narrates from Sulaiman ibn Amir, who said, I heard Al-Bai ibn Anas say, the knowledge of all servants compared to the knowledge of God, their Lord, is like a droplet in all these seas. And in this regard was revealed, and if all the trees on earth were pens, and the sea were ink, with 7 more seas yet added to it, the words of God would not be exhausted, for verily God is almighty, wise. Quran 31:27. And say, if all the sea were ink for my sustainers' words, the sea would indeed be exhausted before my sustainers' words are exhausted, even if we were to add to it sea upon sea. Quran 18:109. This is the intent of the narration, which states, if the sea were ink for the words of my Lord, and all trees were pens, the pens would break, and the sea's water would be depleted, yet the words of God would remain standing eternal, undiminished by anything. For none can fathom his measure nor praise him as he deserves until he himself extols his own essence. Verily, our Lord is as we describe and beyond what we can articulate. Moreover, the bliss of this world, from its beginning to its end, compared to the bliss of the hereafter, is like a mustard seed amidst the entirety of the earth. I say, such expressions aim to convey the concept of boundlessness, inexhaustibility, and non-termination. The meaning is that the words of God have no end, they neither deplete nor conclude. Al-Rabi also mentioned alongside this the bliss of paradise, for God the Exalted declared, verily this is our provision which will never be exhausted. Quran 38:54. Thus he affirmed that it does not deplete, and therefore has no termination, no cessation, nor a final point at which it ends. These sayings and their discussions are expounded elsewhere, but the focus here is on the annihilation of paradise and hell. It has become clear that the assertion of paradise's annihilation is unknown among the predecessors and the Imams. It is merely the doctrine of Jam and his ilk, and its falsehood is evident both rationally and through transmitted knowledge. As for the assertion of the annihilation of hell, there are 2 well-known opinions among the predecessors and their successors, and the dispute over this is recognized among the followers and those after them. This is one of the bases for the perpetuity of torment for those who enter it. Those who claim that their torment has a limit at which it ends, not enduring as the bliss of paradise does, may assert that hell might cease to exist, or that its inhabitants will depart from it, leaving none within. Yet it may be said that they did not intend by this that they depart while torment persists therein without a subject. Rather, its torment ceases, and this is the meaning of its annihilation. This view has been attributed to Umar ibn Mas'ud, Abu Huraira, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, and others. Abd ibn Humayd, one of the eminent scholars of hadith, narrated in his renowned exegesis, saying, I was informed by Sulaiman ibn Harb, who was informed by Hamad ibn Salama from Thabit, from Al-Hasan al-Basri, who said, Umar stated, even if the inhabitants of hell remained in hell for a duration equal to the sands of a liege, there would still be a day for them to depart from it. Similarly, it was narrated by Hajjaj ibn Minhal, from Hamad ibn Salama, from Humayd, from Al-Hasan, that Umar ibn al-Khattab said, even if the inhabitants of hell remained in hell for a duration equal to the sands of a liege, there would still be a day for them to depart from it. This was mentioned in the exegesis of the verse, they will dwell therein for ages. Quran 78:23. This illustrates that a great scholar of hadith and sunnah like Abd ibn Humayd narrates from such eminent imams of hadith and sunnah as Sulaiman ibn Harb, one of the foremost scholars of Sunnah and Hadith, and Hajjaj ibn Minhal, in their narrations from Hamad ibn Salama, despite his lofty status in knowledge and Sunnah. He narrates through 2 chains, via Thabit and via Humayd, from Al-Hasan, from some of the followers. Whether this was accurately preserved from Umar or not, such a narration was circulated among these scholarly imams without their objection. These were individuals who would censure those who deviated from the Sunnah, such as the Kharijites, Mutazilites, Murji'ites, and Jahmites. Ahmad ibn Hanbal used to say, "The narrations of Hamad ibn Salama are like thorns in the throats of the innovators. These are among the greatest pillars of Sunnah, who would denounce innovations lesser than this, had they deemed this view among the innovations contradicting the book, the Sunnah, and consensus, as some might suppose." Abd ibn Humayd mentioned this in the exegesis of the verse, "They will dwell therein for ages," Quran 78:23, to clarify the view of those who said that ages have a finite duration, unlike the provision that knows no exhaustion. Undoubtedly those who held this view, such as Umar and those who transmitted from him, intended by it the general category of hell's inhabitants who are its true denizens. As for those afflicted by sins, these scholars and others knew of their eventual release, not lingering therein for a duration akin to the sands of Alige, nor even close to it. Al-Hasan narrated the hadith of intercession for the people of monotheism, which was recorded by Al-Bukhari and Muslim, as did Hamad ibn Salama, Sulaiman ibn Harb, and their peers. Thus, this does not apply to them in such a context. The term inhabitants of hell does not pertain exclusively to monotheists, but to others, as the Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, stated, "As for the inhabitants of hell, who are its true denizens, they neither die therein nor live." Their departure from it means they exit hell after its torment ceases, depletes, and ends. They do not depart from hell in the sense of leaving its essence, for they remain eternal in hell, as God the Exalted has informed. Yet, when its term expires and it perishes as the world perishes, no torment remains within it, for the cosmos does not cease to exist. Hell is within the earth, and the earth does not vanish entirely, but perishes through the transformation of its state, shifting from one condition to another, as the Almighty said, "All that is on it will perish." Quran 55:26. They do not cease to exist, rather they die and are destroyed, as he said, "What is with you will be exhausted, but what is with God endures." Quran 16:96. Thus, if a man exhausts what is with him, it is depleted, not annihilated, but transformed from one state to another. In the exegesis of Ali ibn Abi Talha al-Walibi from Ibn Abbas, a well-known and widely cited source among exegetes who transmit with chains of narration, such as Ibn Jarir al-Tabari, Ibn Abi Hatim, Uthman, Ibn Sa'id al-Darimi, al-Bayhaqi, and those who mention chains generally like al-Thalabi and al-Baghawi, or those who do not cite chains like al-Mawadi and Ibn al-Jawzi, it is said regarding the verse, "The fire will be your abode wherein you shall abide forever, except as God may will. Verily, your sustainer is wise, all-knowing." Quran 6:128. Ibn Abbas remarked, "In this verse it is indicated that no one should presume to judge on behalf of God concerning his creation, nor assign them to paradise or hell." Al-Tabari stated, "It was narrated from Ibn Abbas that he interpreted this exception to mean that God, the Exalted, has reserved the matter of these people and the extent of their torment to his will." He narrated through Abdullah, through Muawiyah, from Ali, from Ibn Abbas, concerning, "The fire will be your abode, wherein you shall abide forever." Quran 6:128. He said, "In this verse it is indicated that no one should presume to judge on behalf of God concerning his creation, nor assign them to paradise or hell." This warning in the verse is not exclusive to the people of the Qibla, for it states, "And on the day when he will gather them all together, he will say, O assembly of jinn, you have seduced a great many of humankind. And their allies among humankind will say, O our sustainer, we did enjoy one another's company in life, but now we have reached the end of our term which you did appoint for us." He will say, "The fire will be your abode, wherein you shall abide forever, except as God may will. Verily, your sustainer is wise, all-knowing." Thus do we cause the evildoers to befriend one another because of what they used to earn. Quran 6:128, 129. The phrase, "their allies among humankind," undoubtedly includes the disbelievers, for they are more fitting to ally with them than the disobedient among Muslims. In the name of the Most High, Herein unfolds a tapestry of divine wisdom woven from the sacred verses of the Quran and the reflections of the learned, a discourse on the eternal struggle between light and shadow, between faith and disbelief, and the destinies that await in the unseen realms. And the Exalted has declared, "Indeed, he has no authority over those who believe and place their trust in their Lord. His authority is only over those who take him as an ally and those who associate partners with him." Surah An-Nahl, 1699-100. Thus the dominion of the accursed is confined to those who willingly embrace his whispers, forsaking the divine light. And the Sublime has spoken. "We have made the devils allies to those who do not believe." Surah Al-Araf, 727. A bond forged in defiance, a pact sealed in denial, where the misguided find companionship in the agents of darkness. And the Almighty has revealed, "Indeed, those who fear God, when a whisper from Satan touches them, they remember him, and at once they have insight. But their brothers in disbelief draw them further into error, and they do not relent." Surah Al-Araf, 7, 201, 202. Herein lies the dichotomy of the soul. The vigilant heart recoils at the touch of evil, seeking refuge in remembrance, while the heedless plunge deeper into the abyss. And the Most High has proclaimed, "And mention the day when he will gather them all, and then say to the angels, 'Did these people used to worship you?' And they will say, 'Exalted are you. You are our protector, not them. Rather, they used to worship the jinn. Most of them believed in them.'" Surah Saba 34:40, 41. A day of reckoning when veils are lifted and the true objects of misguided devotion are exposed, revealing the folly of those who turned from the one true sovereign. And the Supreme has warned, "So would you take him and his descendants as allies other than me, while they are enemies to you? Wretched it is for the wrongdoers as an exchange." Surah Al-Kahf, 1850. A poignant admonition against the perilous alliance with the adversary, a choice that trades eternal bliss for fleeting delusion. And the All-Knowing has commanded, "So fight against the allies of Satan. Indeed, the plot of Satan has ever been weak." Surah An-Nisa 4:76. A clarion call to resist the minions of darkness, for their schemes, though cunning, crumble before the might of faith. Thus the Divine has ordained the battle against the allies of Satan, who are none other than the disbelievers, as he has further declared. Satan has overcome them and made them forget the remembrance of God. Those are the party of Satan. Unquestionably the party of Satan, they will be the losers. Surah Al-Mujadilah, 58:19. A lament for those ensnared by forgetfulness, bound to a faction doomed to perdition, and the Lord of Majesty has revealed, "Indeed, the devils inspire their allies among mankind to argue with you, and if you were to obey them, indeed you would be associators of others with him." Surah Al-An'am, 6:121. A warning of the insidious whispers that stir contention, drawing the unwary into the mire of polytheism. Thus it is made manifest that the disbelievers are the allies of the devils, most fitting to be encompassed by the words, "And their allies among mankind will say, 'Our Lord, we benefited from one another, and we have reached our term which you appointed for us.' He will say, 'The fire is your residence, wherein you will abide eternally, except for what God wills. Indeed, your Lord is wise and knowing.'" Surah Al-An'am, 6:128. A confession of mutual exploitation on the Day of Judgment, met with the decree of an everlasting abode in flames, save for the divine exception known only to the All-Wise. In this regard, Ibn Abi Talha narrated from Ibn Abbas that this verse implies none should presume to judge on behalf of God concerning his creation, assigning them to paradise or hell. This exception, in his view, suggests a reprieve from torment, a meaning borne by the verse itself. Thus one must pause and refrain from definitive rulings on God's creatures, neither consigning them to bliss nor doom. This stands in contrast to those who interpret the exception as referring merely to variations in torment or the duration before entry into hell, a notion contradicted by the clarity of the text, which pertains explicitly to the disbelievers. Yet al-Baghawi records Ibn Abbas as saying, "The exception pertains to a people predetermined in God's knowledge to embrace Islam, thus being delivered from the fire." Such an interpretation, however, falters, for the address is directed to the allies of Satan and the jinn who mutually benefited, a context far removed from the believers. If the intent were conversion in this world, it would still not align, as all who embrace faith do so by divine foreknowledge. If it implies conversion within hell itself, leading to their release, this contradicts numerous Quranic assertions of eternal damnation. From Abdullah ibn Masud it is narrated, "A time will come upon hell when none shall remain within it, and that after they have lingered there for eons. These," he clarified, "are the disbelievers." Abu Huraira echoed a similar sentiment. Al-Baghawi expounds, "According to the people of the Sunnah, if this narration holds, none of the believers will remain in hell. Yet it must be said that Ibn Mas'ud and Abu Huraira did not intend such a meaning, for their words specify the disbelievers who abide in hell for eons, as described in the divine words. Indeed, hell has been lying in wait for the transgressors as a place of return. They will remain therein for ages, they will not taste therein coolness or drink except scalding water and foul purulence, a fitting recompense. Indeed, they did not expect an account and denied our verses with emphatic denial." Surah An-Naba 78:21-28. This depiction of those who vehemently rejected God's signs finds no widespread contradiction among the companions, for Abu Sa'id and Abu Huraira themselves transmitted narrations of the slaughter of death, intercession, and the liberation of those with monotheism in their hearts. The discourse on the duration of ages, Aqab in hell, has stirred varied interpretations among the ancients. Some, like Ibn Abi Hatim, narrate from Atiyah via Ibn Abbas that, remaining therein for ages, Surah An-Naba 78:23, signifies years. Abu Salih al-Saman, citing Abu Huraira, elaborated that a single age, haqb, spans 80 years, each year comprising 360 days, each day akin to 1,000 years of earthly reckoning. Others, including Abdullah ibn Amr, al-Hasan al-Basri, Sa'id ibn Jubair, and Qatada, concurred on 80 years per age. Al-Hasan, when queried, deferred to divine knowledge, yet relayed a tradition estimating one age as 70,000 years, each day equaling 1,000 earthly years. Al-Sudi posited 700 ages, each age 70 years, with days as aforedescribed. Abdullah ibn Amr conversely deemed an age as 40 years. Thus the debate persists, are these ages finite or boundless? Al-Sudi and Al-Zajjaj advocate a limited duration, yet Al-Zajjaj uniquely posits that post-ages the torment shifts from scalding water to other forms, an interpretation deemed aberrant against Quranic consensus. Others, like Muqatil ibn Hayyan, deemed the verse abrogated by "so taste the punishment, for we will not increase you except in torment," Surah An-Naba 78:30, a view refuted for the verse being a statement of fact, not subject to abrogation. Some held it applies to errant believers, a notion weakened by subsequent verses. Ibn Qutaybah and the majority assert ages imply no finite end, for each passing age is succeeded by another, an endless cycle defying limitation. And the Eternal has affirmed, abiding therein as long as the heavens and the earth endure, except what your Lord wills. Indeed, your Lord is effector of what he intends. Surah Hud 11:107. A verse of profound implication, hinting at divine will beyond human grasp, as Ibn Abi Hatim narrates from Abu Nadra that the Quran culminates in this mystery of divine intent. Narrations from the companions and successors, relayed by scholars like Al-Tabari and Al-Bayhaqi, underscore this ambiguity. Al-Tabari cites Ibn Zayd that God disclosed the fate of paradise's denizens as a gift uninterrupted, Surah Hud 11:108, yet withheld the fate of hell's inhabitants. Al-Sudi notes early Muslims anticipated reprieve upon this verse's revelation. Ibn Masud foretold a day when hell's gates would swing empty after eons, a sentiment echoed by al-Shabi's depiction of hell as quickest to fill and to desolate, Truk Luqailin bdum lnar arba, the four approaches of those who assert the eternity of hell. Those who steadfastly affirm hell's perpetuity traverse four paths. First, they presume a consensus, imagining unanimous agreement among the forebears, deeming any dissent a later innovation. Second, they claim the Quran decisively establishes eternal damnation in myriad verses. Third, They cite prolific traditions affirming the release of believers with even a mote of faith, while disbelievers remain. Fourth, some assert the Prophet's teachings and subsequent necessity confirm this, though lacking specific texts, while a minority peculiarly claim reason dictates the disbeliever's eternity. Yet consensus is unproven in such matters, often presumed before disputes surface, which have indeed existed anciently and persist. No companion explicitly denied hell's cessation. Rather, varied views emerged among successors. The Quran, while asserting eternal abode in numerous passages, does not preclude cessation, portraying the damned yearning for death, reprieve, or release, met with divine refusal, as in, "They will not be finished off so that they die, nor will their punishment be lightened for them." Surah Fatir 35-36. And indeed the criminals will be in the punishment of hell, abiding eternally. It will not be allowed to subside for them, and they therein are in despair. Surah Az-Zukhruf 43-74-75. The verse, "that thy Lord may decree a term for us," as understood by the interpreters, signifies to bring about our death. Thus have the exegetes, such as Al-Sudi, Ibn Zayd, and others, elucidated its meaning. Al-Sudi declared to decree upon us death, while Ibn Zayd affirmed the decree here is death itself. Such is the consensus among the interpreters, resonating with the divine utterance. No term is decreed for them that they may die, nor is their torment lightened. Quran 35-36. Moreover, Al-Farah, commenting on the verse, "But as for him who is given his record in his left hand," up to the words, "Oh, would that it had been the end," Quran 69-25-27, explained that the decree embodies completion and finality. It is the matter resolved and concluded, for with death the life of a human reaches its appointed end. Thus the Almighty declares, "And those in the fire will say to the keepers of hell, Call upon your Lord to lighten for us a day of the torment. They will say, Did not your messengers come to you with clear proofs? They will say, Yes. They will reply, Then call as you like, but the call of the disbelievers is only in vain." Quran 40-49-50. And again he proclaims, "Indeed, those who disbelieved and died while they were disbelievers, upon them is the curse of God and of the angels and of the people altogether. They will abide therein eternally. The punishment will not be lightened for them, nor will they be reprieved." Quran 2:161-162. Further, the divine words resonate, "And those who disbelieved will have the fire of hell. No term is decreed for them that they may die, nor will their torment be lightened. Thus do we recompense every ungrateful one, and they will cry out therein, Our Lord, bring us out. We will do righteous deeds other than what we used to do. Did we not grant you life enough for whoever would remember therein to remember? And the warner had come to you? So taste the punishment, for there is not for the wrongdoers any helper." Quran 35-36-37. And he states, "If you could but see when they are made to stand before the fire, and will say, Oh, would that we could be returned to life, and not deny the signs of our Lord, and be among the believers. But what they concealed before has become apparent to them, and even if they were returned, they would return to that which they were forbidden. And indeed, they are liars." Quran 6:27-28. These verses, and others like them in the Quran, illuminate the eternal abode of the disbelievers in hell, where they neither die nor live, where they plead and implore. Yet no answer comes. Their permanence in hell, the abode of torment, is decreed as long as that torment endures, and they shall not depart from it while it persists. Unlike the people of monotheism, who are delivered from it through intercession and other means, even as the prison of torment remains for those who linger within. Turning to the narrations of intercession, the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, spoke in a sound tradition recorded in Sahih Muslim, as narrated by Abu Sa'id, saying, "As for the people of the fire, who are its true inhabitants, they neither die nor live therein. But there are people whom the fire afflicts due to their sins, and God causes them to die a death until they become like charcoal. Then permission is granted for intercession, and they are brought forth in groups, scattered upon the rivers of paradise. It is then said, O people of paradise, pour upon them. and they grow anew, like a seed sprouting in the flood's sediment. In the two Sahih collections from Abu Hurairah, in a lengthy narration concerning the crossing of the bridge and intercession, it is said, "Until when God has completed the reckoning among his servants and wishes to bring out by his mercy whom he wills from the people of the fire, he commands the angels to bring out of the fire those who did not associate partners with God, from among those whom God wishes to show mercy, those who say, 'There is no deity but God.' They recognize them by the mark of prostration, for the fire consumes all of the son of Adam except the mark of prostration. So they are brought out of the fire, scorched, and the water of life is poured upon them, and they grow therein as a seed grows in the flood sediment. Then God completes the reckoning among his servants, and there remains a man facing the fire." And the narration continues, detailing his turning away from the fire, his approach to paradise, his entry through its gate, and his receiving manifold blessings. Abu Sa'id also narrated, adding, "and tenfold like it." In the two Sahih collections from Abu Sa'id, it is further recounted, "Until the believer is delivered from the fire, by him in whose hand is my soul. None is more zealous than us in seeking God's justice on the day of resurrection for our brothers who are in the fire. They say, 'Our Lord, they used to fast with us, pray and perform pilgrimage.' It is said, 'Bring out those whom you recognize. Their faces are protected from the fire, and many are brought out, some with the fire having reached halfway up their legs, others to their knees. They say, Our Lord, none remain in it of those whom you commanded us to bring out. He says, Return, and whoever you find with the weight of a diner of good in their heart, bring them out. Many are brought out, until he says, Return, and whoever you find with the weight of an atom of good in their heart, bring them out. And many are brought out. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri would say, If you do not believe me in this narration, then read if you wish. Indeed, God does not wrong anyone by so much as the weight of an atom, and if there be a good deed, he multiplies it and gives from himself a great reward. Quran 440. Then God declares, The angels have interceded, the prophets have interceded, and the believers have interceded, and none remains but the most merciful of the merciful. He takes them and casts them into a river at the mouths of paradise, called the River of Life. They emerge as a seed emerges in the flood's path, like pearls in their vessels, with seals upon them. The people of paradise recognize them, saying, These are the freed ones of God, whom God has admitted to paradise without any deed they performed or good they presented. Then it is said to them, Enter paradise. Whatever you see is yours. They say, Our Lord, you have given us what you have not given to anyone among the worlds. He says, I have for you something better than this. They say, Our Lord, what could be better than this? He says, My good pleasure, for I shall never be displeased with you after this. In another narration, from faith replaces from good, and it states, The Majestic One says, My intercession remains. He takes a handful from the fire and brings out a people who are scorched, casting them into a river at the mouths of paradise. And the narration continues without stating, They never did any good. In the two Sahih collections from Ibn Mas'ud, the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, I know the last of the people of the fire to emerge from it, and the last of paradise to enter it, a man who emerges from the fire crawling. God says to him, Go, enter paradise. He comes to it, and it seems to him to be full, until God says to him, Go, for you shall have 10 times the world, or the world and 10 times like it. In a narration by Muslim it is said, Wish, and he wishes, and it is said to him, You shall have what you wished for, and 10 times more. This aligns with the narration of Abu Sa'id in 2 aspects. Likewise in Muslim from Jabir it is said, Like the world and 10 times like it, as in the first wording of Ibn Mas'ud's narration. In the 2 Sahih collections from Jabir, the Messenger of God, peace and blessings be upon him, said, Indeed, God brings out people from the fire and admits them to paradise. In another narration, Indeed, God brings out a people from the fire through intercession. And in Muslim, from Jabir, the messenger of God, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Indeed, a people emerge from the fire, burned in it, except for the circles of their faces, until they enter paradise." In Al-Bukhari, from Imran ibn Hussein, the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "A people emerge from the fire through the intercession of Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and enter paradise, and they are called the hell-dwellers." Likewise in Al-Bukhari, from Anas, the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "A people emerge from the fire after it has touched them with its blaze, and they enter paradise, and they are called the hell-dwellers." The narrations of intercession concerning those who emerge from the fire are abundant, and many such traditions are found in the two Sahih collections. In the narration of Anas, intercession is mentioned repeatedly, and the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said in the hereafter, "I say, O my Lord, grant me permission for those who said, there is no deity but God." God, exalted and majestic, says, "By my might, my majesty, my greatness and my grandeur, I shall bring out of it whoever said, there is no deity but God." In a narration by Muslim it is said, "That is not for you or to you." The difference between the permanence of paradise and the fire. As for the distinction between the permanence of paradise and the fire, in terms of divine law and reason, let us ponder deeply. In terms of divine law there are several facets. First, God has informed us of the enduring bliss of paradise, its perpetuity, and that it shall neither cease nor be depleted, as mentioned in numerous places in his book. He has declared that the people of paradise shall not depart from it. As for the fire and its torment, he has not affirmed its permanence. Rather, he has stated that its inhabitants shall not depart from it. Second, he has conveyed in several verses indications that it is not eternal. Third, nothing in the mention of the fire suggests perpetuity. Fourth, the fire is qualified by his words, "Abiding therein for ages," Quran 78:23, and "abiding therein forever, except as your Lord wills," Quran 6:128, and "as long as the heavens and the earth endure, except as your Lord wills," Quran 11:107. These three verses imply a temporary or conditional state, unlike the absolute and unending nature of paradise, which is neither limited nor conditional. Fifth, it is established that paradise will be entered by those created for it in the hereafter, by those who initially entered the fire, and by children through the deeds of their parents. Thus it is confirmed that paradise admits those who have not performed good deeds, whereas the fire does not punish anyone except for their own sins. Hence the two are not comparable. Sixth, paradise arises from the essence of his mercy and forgiveness, while the fire stems from his punishment. He has said, "Inform my servants that I am indeed the forgiving, the merciful, and that my punishment is the painful punishment." Quran 15:49-50. And he declared, "Know that God is severe in penalty, and that God is forgiving, merciful." Quran 5:98. And again, "Your Lord is swift in penalty, and indeed he is forgiving, merciful." Quran 6:165. Thus the bliss of paradise is a necessity of his names, which are intrinsic to his essence, and must endure as long as the meanings of his names and attributes endure. As for punishment, it is among his creations, and a creation may have an end, like this world and other things, especially a creation linked to another purpose. Seventh, he has informed us that his mercy encompasses all things, and that he has prescribed upon himself mercy. Quran 6:12. He has said, "My mercy precedes my wrath, and my mercy has overcome my wrath." This is a universal and absolute statement. If a punishment were to have no end, there would be no mercy at all. Eighth, with his vast mercy it is established that he is wise, and the wise creates only for a universal wisdom, as he has mentioned his wisdom in numerous places. If it is assumed that he punishes whom he punishes for a wise purpose, this is conceivable. In this world, legal punishments contain wisdom, as do the calamities he decrees, which hold great purposes: purification from sins, refinement of souls, and deterrence for the doer and others in the future. They serve as lessons, for paradise is pure, entered only by the pure. Hence, in a sound narration it is said, "They pause after being delivered from the bridge on a span between paradise and the fire, and when they are refined and purified, permission is granted for them to enter paradise. The wicked, oppressive souls that, if returned to the world before punishment, would revert to what they were forbidden, are unfit to dwell in the abode of peace, which is antithetical to deceit, oppression, and evil. If they are punished in the fire with a torment that purifies their souls of that evil, this aligns with wisdom, as seen in worldly punishments. Creating beings with inherent evil that is removed through punishment is part of complete wisdom. However, creating souls that commit evil in this world and the hereafter, destined only for endless torment, presents a contradiction that opposes wisdom and mercy in a manner not seen elsewhere. For this reason, Al-Jam, upon observing this, denied that God is the most merciful of the merciful, saying instead, "He does as he wills." Those who followed his path, such as Al-Ash'ari and others, do not truly acknowledge wisdom or mercy in essence, but only knowledge, power, and will, without favouring one aspect over another. Thus, when asked to affirm that he is wise, they interpret it as knowing, powerful, or affirming, none of which necessarily implies wisdom. If it is established that he is merciful and wise, and the falsity of Al-Jam's statement is recognized, it becomes necessary to affirm what mercy and wisdom entail. The statement of the Mu'tazila is also false, as is the doctrine of the determinists and deniers of his wisdom and mercy. Among the gravest errors is their adherence to Al-Jam's affirmation, for it necessitates what they claim, and the corruption of the consequent entails the corruption of the premise. And God the Exalted knows best. As for the verses concerning the permanence of paradise, consider the following. First, his statement, "Its fruit is lasting, and its shade." Quran 13:35. He has informed us that it is enduring, for what is transient is not lasting. Second, his words, "Indeed, this is our provision. For it there is no depletion." Quran 38:54. What is transient is depleted. Third, his declaration, "What is with you comes to an end, but what is with God endures." Quran 16:96. He has informed us that the good of this world is depleted, while what is with God is enduring and does not deplete. If the bliss with God had an end, it would deplete like the bliss of this world and would not be enduring without depletion. Fourth, his statement in two verses, "Indeed, those who have believed and done righteous deeds, for them is a reward uninterrupted." Quran 41:8. And except for those who have believed and done righteous deeds, for them is a reward uninterrupted. Quran 84:25. As he said, "And indeed for you is a reward uninterrupted." Quran 68:3. Most interpreters have said it means neither cut off nor diminished. They reported from Ibn Abbas that he said not cut off, and from Muqatil not diminished. The majority of interpreters reiterated not cut off nor diminished, as he said, "And indeed for you is a reward uninterrupted." Quran 68:3. They said, "And from it is manun, for it cuts off a person's lifespan." From Mujahid it is not withdrawn, which aligns with this. For what has an end is measured and calculated, unlike what has no end, which is not withdrawn. Some have diverged, saying not something for which they are indebted, akin to his statement, "They consider it a favour to you that they have accepted Islam." Say, "Do not consider your Islam a favour to me, rather God has conferred favour upon you that he has guided you to the faith if you should be truthful." Quran 49:17. This opinion, contrary to the sayings of the early Muslims and the majority, is erroneous for several reasons. First, God bestows favour upon us with every blessing he grants, even faith and righteous deeds. As he said, "They consider it a favour to you that they have accepted Islam." Say, "Do not consider your Islam a favour to me. Rather, God has conferred favour upon you that he has guided you to the faith if you should be truthful." Quran 49:17. And he said, "God has already conferred favour upon the believers when he raised among them a messenger from themselves." Quran 3:164. The people of paradise also said, as God has informed us, "And they will approach one another, inquiring of each other. They will say, 'Indeed, we were previously among our people fearful of displeasing God. So God conferred favour upon us and protected us from the punishment of the scorching fire.'" Quran 52, 25, 27. And this is their statement: praise to God who has guided us to this, and we would never have been guided if God had not guided us. Quran 7:43. And if not for the favour of my Lord, I would have been of those brought in to hell. Quran 37:57. From the Prophet, may the peace and blessings of God be upon him, it is narrated that he said, "None among you shall enter paradise by virtue of their deeds alone." They inquired, "Not even you, O Messenger of God?" He replied, "Not even I, unless God envelops me in his mercy and boundless favour." Such is the humbling truth, that even the noblest of actions are but a reflection of divine grace, a mirror of God's infinite compassion. And God, the Exalted, in many a place within his book, speaks of his boundless favours, his benevolence, and his blessings bestowed upon his servants. He commands them to remember these gifts and to offer gratitude for them, for gratitude is the key that unlocks the heart to the divine presence. Yet the servant is forbidden to boast of their charity, as God, the Most High, declares, "Do not render your alms void by reminders of your generosity or by injury." Quran 2, 264. For in truth, the one who gives charity does so for their own soul's benefit, not for the sake of the recipient. Were there no reward, no recompense, no spiritual gain in such an act, they would not have given. Thus they are akin to one who serves for a wage, paid by a master, without truly being a benefactor to those they serve. Moreover, it is God who is the true bestower, for he facilitates the means by which one may do good to their own soul. The servant must therefore offer thanks to God and recognize that it is he who is the ultimate benefactor. If one contemplates the act of giving, it is God who created it. If one considers its purpose, it is to seek reward and recompense from God, and if one reflects on the one benefited, it is the giver themselves who benefits, for God has made them a benefactor to their own soul rather than a wrongdoer against it. Thus, to boast of charity before the creation is an injustice that nullifies the act, for God alone is the true bestower of blessings upon his servants. Gratitude for these blessings is due to him, especially when he aids them in offering thanks and renders them among the grateful by his favour. The reward of gratitude is yet another of his boundless graces, a pure act of generosity without any expectation of recompense from another, neither from the one benefited nor from anyone else. He is the true benefactor, even if his bestowal carries within it a wisdom that he loves and is pleased with. That wisdom too is from him, and none holds any claim over him. He is the purely generous, and he, the glorified, is beyond compare, for there is nothing like unto him. Among people, there is discourse on generosity and benevolence, and whether one who acts for a purpose or wisdom can truly be deemed generous. A distinction is drawn between one who seeks recompense from another, thus being in need of others, rendering their generosity a mere transaction, and one who is free of such need, being the generous by nature, bestowing favours and wisdom as an expression of divine will, as has been elaborated elsewhere. For God the Exalted has declared, "Verily we created man in the best of forms. Then we reduced him to the lowest of the low, save those who believe and do righteous deeds." Quran 95, 4, 6. He has clarified that the blessings bestowed are withdrawn from those who disbelieve. Were the believer to be in a similar state, there would be no distinction between the two. The fifth, as in God's statement concerning the bliss of paradise, a gift unfailing, Quran 11, 108, and concerning the torment of the denizens of hell, "Indeed your Lord does what he will," Quran 11, 107. More than one has said that this means it is unending, perpetual. The sixth, it is established that God has decreed and informed that the inhabitants of paradise and hell shall not die, as narrated in the authentic hadith. Death shall be brought in the form of a ram and slaughtered between paradise and hell, and it shall be said, "O people of paradise, eternity without death, and O people of hell, eternity without death. Each shall remain forever in their state. Since they do not die, they must reside in an abode. It is inconceivable that they be punished after entering paradise, leaving only the abode of bliss as their eternal home. A living being cannot be devoid of either pleasure or pain. Thus, if pain is negated, there remains only unending delight. And so it concludes, all praise belongs to God, the Lord of all the worlds, and may the peace and blessings of God be upon Muhammad, his family and his companions. God is sufficient for us, and he is the best disposer of affairs.